Black people are just like everybody else.
Told me he would have me arrested. I told him he may do that.
The person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper.
Blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture.
You can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution.
In a generous America, you don't have to be rich to achieve your potential.
But I can't seem to get there, no-how. I can't seem to get over that line.
In a generous America, be true to what you said on paper.
What will the problem of the 21st century be?
I don't know, really, when you stop to think about it.
We want to be first-class citizens.
We want to live as decent human beings.
I'm tired of having to beg for our humanity and it being conditional based on how we look.
Or how we behave.
Or what we do.
Let me get a job. Allow me the right to protect my house.
My children.
That's all I want.
Autonomy.
Don't nobody hate you.
The time, it's far gone for that.
I simply want to live my life.
It's not that people don't understand what's going on. It's that they like it this way.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's not even because they really believe what they believe. It's because they don't know. And they don't have a desire to do better.
Well, at least we know for certain that the police somehow managed to de-escalate and disarm and not kill white people every day.
I don't want to hear any more about how far we've come when paid public servants can pull a drive-by on a 12-year-old playing alone in a park, killing him on television, and then go home and make a sandwich.
It's crazy. You know Tamir Rice would have graduated from high school this year?
Somebody tell Rekia Boyd it was much better to live in 2012 than it was in 1612 or 1712.
Tell that to Oscar Grant.
Tell Sandra Bland.
And call Philando Castile while you at it.
Shit, text Breonna Taylor.
Oh, say, can you see?
When we open our eyes and we look around, we see you, America.
We see each other.
But you know, it's not through the eyes of someone who's enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. I mean, we see it through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream.
And we've only experienced the American nightmare.
We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from her hypocrisy. And now we ain't afraid to say it. So if we go to jail, we just go to jail. So what?
If you're black, you're born in jail.
It's the land of the free.
If we see, in fact, on one hand, no past, and really no president, certainly no future, you've destroyed an entire population from the cradle.
Land of the free.
Everywhere in the world, everyone knows we are the American other. The largest indigestible mass in the American intestinal system that doesn't go away, no matter how much Pepto-Bismol you take or Tums for your tummy or whatever.
Yep, you can go anywhere in the world and you find people distancing themselves from us.
Well, I spent a lot of time in Japan, right? And I had people tell me, we know that in America, the Negroes, the African Americans, or you colored people, you're inferior. We don't want anything to do with you. We seen it on TV. We see it everywhere. You all have problems.
Even when immigrants come to this country, the first thing they're taught, even if they don't know it when they come, is that you don't want to identify with African Americans.
Well, A lot of immigrant populations understand America's racism and classism because they've engaged in it in their native countries. Coming here to join in the Bloodfest isn't an issue.
Nothing else matters except not being at the bottom of this food chain.
Yes.
I mean, even people from the Caribbean, who are blacker than I, feel the same way. And it's not because they're racist, but because they know that we are other. So some people get accents overnight sometimes that they didn't have before.
The Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the
Not the
good
Dominican
here.
Republic.
This is the Indian side
No,
of it.
yeah, no. This is not black. Not that 4C.
Right.
I did Ancestry, and I found out I'm 52% white.
Hashtag Bridgerton.
No.
Oh, God. I'm angry, y'all. I'm hurt. I'm frustrated. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't want to see one more black man die at the hands of a law enforcement. Not one more. Not one more. Not one more.
Perhaps the greatest battle before us is the fight for a new America. United, fearless, and free.
Yeah, but in order to do that, we have to seriously examine the histories that we've been told.
Yeah, we have to do something more than that.
Well, one of the stumbling blocks is that the nature of our experience in this country contradicts the myth of American history. It attacks American identity.
Can't they understand that this is the perspective from which we are now speaking?
No, they can't
Isn't it-
understand that.
It isn't as if we got up today and said, what can we do today to irritate America?
Right.
It's because since 1619, we have tried every method of communication, of transformation of our situation,
Have mercy.
from petition to the vote, everything. We have tried it all. There isn't anything that hasn't been exhausted.
True.
And I think it's remarkable that we can talk about the people who were publishing newspapers while they were still enslaved in 1827.
See?
1827.
Yes. We've been doing everything, writing editorials for a long time. And now the charge of impatience is simply unbearable.
They've tried to have calm conversation about police violence and voter suppression. America still
Say
isn't
it.
listening.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. they're
And
not.
I am never, ever going to get caught up in the intellectual masturbation of the question of Black power.
We have to find some way with these dialogues to show and to encourage the white liberal to stop being liberal and to become an American radical.
I'm a little bit hardened about white liberals. I don't trust people who think of themselves as liberals.
Now,
I wrote a letter to the New York Times recently, which didn't get printed, which is getting to be my rapport with the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
They said it was too personal. First of all, what it concerned itself with was I was in a stew over the protests. And I noticed the reaction, starting in Washington and coming on up to New York, among what we were all here calling the white liberal circles, which was something like, you Negroes act right or you're going to ruin everything we're trying to do.
Those white liberals posing as our friends have failed us.
but then the question is, what is the nature of our civil rights movement today?
I think it is at once a movement for integration into American society as it now exists, and simultaneously a revolutionary movement. That is to say, we want our slice of cake.
I do not want a part of the American pie. The American pie means raping South Africa, beating Vietnam, beating South America, raping the Philippines, raping every country you've been in. I don't want any of your blood money. I don't want it. Don't want to be a part of that system.
Well, I want that cake.
Well,
And I don't want to change it from vanilla to chocolate. I want my share of it, and I want it now.
To that extent, our revolt is revolutionary.
well, revolution is bloody.
But America is in a unique position. She's the only country in history in the position, actually, to become involved in a bloodless revolution. The Russian Revolution was bloody. The Chinese Revolution,
Bloody.
French Revolution,
Bloody.
Cuban Revolution.
Bloody.
Yeah. And there was nothing more bloody than the American Revolution.
Wasn't shit nonviolent about old Patrick Henry or George Washington.
No.
Oh, yeah, they let
Why?
Christmas
No.
get shot real fast.
Nothing.
First one done.
Mhm.
But today, this country can be involved in a revolution that won't take any bloodshed. All she's got to do is give the black men in this country everything that's due him. Everything.
We're going to stay in motion until our demands are met.
Now, whether our movement is revolutionary or whether it is accommodationist, it demands that America deal with the contradictions of this society.
Mhm.
And that much thinking, economic, social, and political, be changed. And that new institutions come into existence.
They must.
I've been studying that man Billy Graham, the one who preaches white nationalism.
Lord.
What?
Oh
That's what he
my
preaches.
God.
That's what he preaches. The whole church structure in this country is white nationalism. You go inside a white church. That's what they preach in white nationalism. They got Jesus white, Mary white, God white, everybody white. That's white nationalism.
We all know the Christian church is a very popular institution.
Very.
It's not enough to let me into it. It has to change.
And that's true for all American institutions.
White people love creating systems and settings for whites only, forcing everyone else to isolate or segregate themselves.
Well, how can white people who say they're not a part of those institutions begin to move?
How can black people inside this country move?
And how then do we begin to clear away the obstacles that we have in the society that make us live like human beings?
How can we begin to build institutions that will allow people to relate with each other as human beings?
This country has never done that, especially around white and black. We were never fighting for the right to integrate. We were fighting against white supremacy.
Right.
Still are.
But in order to understand white supremacy, we must dismiss the fallacious notion that white people can give anybody their
And
freedom.
there it is.
No man can give anybody his
Yep.
freedom. A man is born free.
And this country enslaves us the second we're born.
So the only act that white people can do is to stop denying us our freedom.
Every civil rights bill in this country was passed for white people. For example, I am black. I know that.
Mhm.
I also know that while I am black, I am a human being. Therefore, I have the right to go into any public place. White people didn't know that. Every time I tried to go into a place, they stopped me. So some boys had to create a bill to tell that man he's a human being. Don't stop him. That bill was for that white man, not for me. I knew it all the time. I knew it all the time.
Exactly. I knew I could vote. And that wasn't a privilege. That was my right. Every time I tried, I was shot or killed or jailed or beaten or economically deprived. So somebody had to write a bill for white people to tell them when a black person comes to vote, don't bother them.
Again, that was
Jeez.
for white people, not black people.
It is white people across this country who are incapable of allowing me to live where I want to live.
Mhm.
You need a civil rights bill. You need a civil rights bill. Not me. I know where I want to live. The failure to pass a civil rights bill or a voting rights bill isn't because of Black Power. It isn't because of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee or Black Lives Matter. It's not because of the rebellions that are occurring in the major cities right now. It is the incapability of whites to deal with their own problems inside their own communities.
Their own.
Can we find white people who are going to have the courage to go into white communities and start organizing them?
Please.
Can we find them? Are they here and are they willing to do
This
that?
is a good question.
Those are questions for white activists.
Wow.
That's why I say we're never going to get caught up in questions about power. This country knows what power is. It knows it very well, and it knows what black power is because it's deprived black people of it for 400 years. So it knows what black power is.
Black power. Oh, how that phrase upsets so many people.
Oh,
Ooh,
everybody is so
It's too right.
hysterical and panic stricken because of the adjective that precedes that word, power.
my
Black
goodness.
power is no different than any other kind of power in this country. We are finally beginning to do what they have been telling us to do for a long time. Take ourselves up by our bootstraps
Right.
and begin to consolidate our efforts
That's
and
right.
move out like every other group has moved out in
That's
America.
right.
But you see, they made one mistake. They thought that because we had been relegated for such a long time to a subservient position, and that we had accepted rather docilely the position of second-class citizenship, that we would never rise up,
People
that we would
just,
never speak out.
they just gonna have to get used to that word, black power.
They are. And we must organize independent bases of economic and political power through boycotts, electoral activity, rent strikes, etc. Organizing the rage of Black people, organizing that rage and putting new hard questions and demands to white America.
We have to be able to attack the specific structures which are visible, which we can see, yeah, which we may be able to move at.
But how can white people, who are the majority and who are responsible for making democracy work, make it work?
They never have made democracy work.
They
Wherever
don't.
America has been, she has not been able to make democracy work.
America loves telling other nations how to do democracy, except she, still a baby nation, hasn't perfected the governance style herself. It's like cheetahs telling somebody how to be honest.
But white America cannot condemn herself.
So we not only condemn the country for what is done internally, but we also condemn it for what it's done externally.
Those same white supremacy attitudes run rampant through the society.
I mean, think about the missionaries who went to Africa.
The ones who didn't know how to properly wash themselves or season their food while we were minding our business doing math and curing diseases.
Okay. But if you listen to McGraw-Hill and Scholastic and them, we were the savages and the missionaries came and saved us.
Right? They came to civilize us because we were uncivilized, to educate us because we were uneducated, and to give us some literate studies because we were illiterate.
That has been the rationalization for Western civilization across the world, stealing and plundering and raping everybody in its path.
Yeah.
And that still runs on today. Because what we have today is that we have what we call modern day Peace Corps, missionaries. And they come into our ghettos and they head start, upward lift, bootstrap, and upward bound us into white society.
I don't trust missionaries. I don't want anyone working with me because they're doing something for me. What I want them to do is to work in their own communities. I want you to tell your brother, your sisters, and your wife, and your children what it is all about. Don't tell me because I know already.
Yes.
They don't want to face the real problem.
Yeah.
It's about who has power.
But not just pure power as a metric of might,
Wait, right. We got plenty of might.
but who has the power to make his or her acts legitimate.
That's it. And in this country, this power is invested in the hands of white people, and they make their acts legitimate.
Now it's time for us to make our acts legitimate. We're tired of waiting. Every time people move in this country, we're forced to defend our position before we even move.
They ought to start defending themselves as to why they've oppressed and exploited us.
How can white society begin to move to see Black people as human beings?
I am Black. Therefore, I am.
Come on.
Not that I am Black and I must go to college to prove myself. I am Black. Therefore, I am. And don't deprive me of anything and say to me, you must go to college before you can get A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. It is only a rationalization of one's oppression.
Can they move inside their own community and start tearing down racism where it does in fact exist?
Where it exists.
Where it exists.
Where it in fact exists.
It is white institutions that do that.
Now, I'm not asking for anything because they can and won't be my savior and my oppressor.
They must change, though, in order for America to really live on the basic principle of human relationship. A new society must be born.
Yeah. Yep. Racism must die. And the economic exploitation of this country, of non-white peoples around the world, it must also die.
I mean, we see this country trying to rule the world. And someone must stand up and start articulating that this country is not God.
Yeah.
It's not a God
Right.
and cannot, therefore, rule the world.
America has no problem destroying other nations at war, but she don't want no one coming here to start shit on her land.
She need to check herself
Mm-hmm.
and learn to stop sweeping around other people's front doors and sweep around her own.
It's
Right.
time America stopped dogmatically sharing her fake ass virtues and kept it real with herself. She ain't fooling nobody, especially not us.
Mm-mm.
Can they, in fact, begin to move into and tear down the institutions that have put us in the trick bag that we've been in for the last 100 years?
You know what? One can learn a great deal about society by looking at its prisons.
Hey,
There it
hey.
is.
Mhm.
Look towards its dungeons, and there you will see in concentrated form the sickness of the entire system.
There
The
is
whole thing.
something that is particularly revealing about the analogy between the prison and the larger society of which it is a reflection.
There's so much wealth and so many sophisticated scientific and technological skills that anyone with just a little bit of common sense can see the insanity of a continued existence of ghettos and barrios and the poverty which is there. Okay?
Common sense is just isn't common anymore.
Like,
It never was.
Like, we see the rockets taking off towards the moon and the B-52s raining destruction and death on the people of Vietnam, and we know that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
All we have to do is redirect that wealth and that energy and channel it into food for the hungry, to clothes for the needy, into schools, hospitals, housings, all the material things that are necessary in order for a human being to lead decent, comfortable lives. In order to lead lives which are devoid of all the pressures of racism and all the other means which the rulers use to manipulate the people.
Y'all, freedom is so near and yet it is so far away. Why?
No, we're trapped. Double trapped, triple trapped. Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. Every kind of solution that someone comes up with is just another trap. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. All of them the same enemy. You can't deny that.
As Black people, as brown people, as people of color, as working men and women in general, we know and we experience the agony of that struggle for existence every day.
And we locked into that struggle.
The parallels between our lives and the lives of our sisters and brothers behind bars, it is very clear. The prison system is a weapon of repression.
Mm-hmm.
The government views young Black and brown people as actually and potentially the most rebellious elements in our society.
Firstly, they need to stop using Black children as photo opportunities because they're cute now, but in 10 years, they're blackmail suspects in red shirts and khaki shorts.
Eating cookies and drinking milk with children does not absolve you of your complicity in their oppression and degradation.
It does not.
Because America will spend more on police than education, and then they'll encourage children to feast with their oppressors, drinking milk and cookies.
They are really weird.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they are. And anyone who has seen the streets of ghettos understands how easily a sister or brother can fall victim to the police, who are always there in mass.
And we're always told about a Negro crime rate.
What Negro crime
yes.
rate? We haven't put 40 sticks of dynamite in our mother's luggage or blew one of them planes out of the sky. And I don't care what nobody say, we have never lynched anybody.
Check it. In 1990, there were 2,280,000 Black men in prison on probation or parole. You know how many Black men got a college degree in that year? 23,000. That's a ratio of 99 to 1.
My God.
Do you know what the ratio that year was for white males in prison on probation or parole who got college degrees? 6 to 1.
Sure, a lot of us get arrested, but why?
Well, we have to seek out the root cause.
Exactly. You cannot enslave people for 3 centuries. Centuries! Followed by another century of de jure segregation, and then cure it with 35 years of civil rights legislation?
But you know what?
Please.
In some ways, as tragic as this year has been, and difficult and scary and uncertain as they've been, they've also been an incredible opportunity for people to be awakened by some of these underlying trends.
Word. And we need programs that will create meaningful opportunities for those impoverished in this society, whether they be black, white, Hispanic, or whatever.
We need to make it worthwhile. Make them feel worthwhile, that it's worthwhile for them to stay in school, to work hard, to take a job trainings program, because they're going to get a meaningful job in a 21st century, highly technological global economy.
Yeah. I interviewed a drug dealer who was, if we had played the tape, you would have seen him. An ex-drug dealer who was making $6,000 a day dealing drugs. And he realized, just why he realized it, I don't know. But he realized he was heading for Cook County Jail. And so he decided he didn't want to spend the rest of his life in jail, even for $6,000 a day. So he just finished his first semester in college. But when I interviewed him, he was working at Popeyes. His name is Lindell. I said, Lindell, may I ask you, how much money do you make a month working at Popeyes? And he said $600 a month. And I said, do you ever think about that $6,000 a day you used to make selling drugs? And he said, are you crazy? I think about it all day long. He is the exception. Who amongst us could resist the lure of $6,000 a day of ostensibly easy money if you didn't feel that you had a stake in the system?
That's why they leave school. You cannot educate anybody if they see what's happening to their fathers, if they see PhDs toting garbage.
You can't educate nobody after you destroy their morale.
Look at Malcolm X. One of the main reasons we got Malcolm X was because when he was young and wanted to become a lawyer, his teacher advised him to do something that colored people can do, like become a carpenter. Only the child or the brother or sister or the mother of that child knows what happens to that child's morale at that time. This is ingrained in the American mythology.
We are only 13% of the country, yet we are chief among the most convenient scapegoats for America's social and economic problems.
Well, we certainly better prepare for the struggle than we were in 1896.
We're still defined as less intelligent, hardworking, and able than we are.
And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power.
Yes.
America has looted Black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what they do. We learned it from you. We learned the violence from you. We learned the violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
America is a hypocrite nation.
Oh, God.
Full of hypocrites. They hate being called out for it. But just because they hate it doesn't mean it isn't true.
It's hard.
It's not light that America needs. It's fire. Not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed. And its crimes against God and man must be denounced.
So, how can we begin to change what's going on in this country? Like, what can we do to stop that?
Yeah.
Okay. We've taken all the myths of the country, and we've found them to be nothing but downright lies. This country has told us that if we worked hard, we would succeed. And if that were true, we would own this country lock, stock, and barrel. Lock, stock, and barrel.
One more time.
lock, stock, and barrel.
Mm-hmm.
It is we who have picked the cotton for nothing. It is we who are the maids in the
nothing.
kitchens of liberal white people. It is we who are the janitors, the porters, the elevator men. We who sweep the floors of your colleges. Yes, we are the hardest workers and the lowest paid. The lowest paid. And it is nonsensical for people to start talking about human relationships until they're willing to build new institutions. This country is a nation of thieves. It has stolen everything beginning with black people. Beginning with black people.
We have been feeling that hurt and that pain and that frustration for far too long.
How do we move this country to begin changing this country from what it is?
We have been unable to grasp it because we've always been moved, dig this, in the field of morality and love, while white people have been politically jiving with our lives.
Yeah, we need to move politically and stop trying to move morally.
Yes.
You can't move morally against them. You've
Exactly.
got to move politically.
You've got to move politically.
Because there can be no understanding of the rioting of ghettos or any realistic analysis of its impact upon the civil rights movement in the nation without the realization that black citizens have just pressing and long neglected grievances that are real.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Like we don't erupt simply for exercise. We do not curse imaginary obstacles and procedures. Our resentments are not the product of a momentary flare-up, but centuries of postponement, denial, insult, and abuse.
It has just been inevitable that we are tired of being governed by laws that we had no part in making.
Yes.
And by officials in whose choice we've had no voice.
Too many white people believe we are actually free to go where we want to, and that this is the land of opportunity. Except we still have white sections of town, white only places of worship, white only clubs, white only
True.
schools, white only employers, although they'll never say it, but just look at the skins of all the employees of certain companies.
Yep.
Governance structures which do not resemble the demographic makeup of the nation. And, well, I could go on, but I won't.
It is beyond idiotic to continue laboring under the white supremacist supposition that a white man knows what's good for the black man.
We've always been loyal when the ideals of American democracy have been attacked. We have given our blood in its defense, from Crispus Attucks on Boston Commons.
Yeah.
On the battlefields of France.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I got involved in public office in the first place had everything to do with wanting to make sure that I am the norm and not the exception.
We have fought for the democratic principles of equality under the law, equality of opportunity, equality at the ballot box, for the guarantees of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have fought to preserve one nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the presupposition that all men are created equal. Yes, we have fought for America with all her imperfections, not so much for what she is, but what we know she can be.
Why do black people have to save America?
Hey! Black women.
Okay.
Black women.
You
Say
right.
it again.
You right. America's history with black people is violent and oppressive, and yet time and time again, America's saviors seem to be the exact people who should want to burn it down the most.
America doesn't deserve the grace we continuously give it.
Well, the fact is that all black people still question whether or not they're equal to white people, because every time we start to do something, white people pop up trying to show us how to do it.
Every single time. And if we're going to eliminate that for the generation that comes after us, then we got to be seen in positions of power, doing and articulating for ourselves. We should be able to agree that we are all against racists.
Okay. And I don't want no unity with white supremacists.
None.
Now, if everybody who's white see themselves as racist and then see us against them, they're speaking from their own guilty supposition, not ours. That is not on us.
No, it's not.
Question. Are the liberals willing to share their salaries with the economically insecure black people they so much love? Then if you're not, are you willing to start building new institutions that will provide economic security for black people? That's the question we want to deal with. That is the question we want to deal with.
I've been tired of trying to prove things to white people.
I mean, can we stop those institutions that are so willing to fight against communist aggression, but closes their eye to racist oppression?
Yeah. Now we getting money, but that alone isn't going to stop all of this. All right. As racism disappeared in Hollywood because we have so many black A-listers. No. It has not disappeared in Hollywood, in case anyone was holding their breath to wonder if there was a newsflash that I have received that you had. Dedicating our lives to getting money just to give it right back, to put someone's brand on our body when we spent centuries praying with brands on our bodies, and now we pray to get paid with brands for our bodies. There has been no war that we have not fought and died on the front lines of. There has been no job we haven't done. There's no tax they haven't levied against us, and we pay them all. But freedom is somehow always conditional here. You're free, they keep telling us. But she would have been alive if she hadn't acted so free. Now, freedom is always coming in the hereafter, but you know what though? The hereafter is a hustle. We want it now.
Yeah.
And let's get a couple of things straight here. Just a little side note. The burden of the brutalized is not to comfort the bystander. That's not our job.
Period.
We can stop with all that.
Yeah.
And you don't get to disrespect black bodies in the street and then watch black bodies for entertainment.
If you have a critique for the resistance, for our resistance, then you better have an established record of critique of our oppression. If you have no interest in equal rights for black people, then do not make suggestions to those who do. Sit down. I'm tired of trying to explain to white people that we're not going to hurt them.
Our concern is getting the things that we want, the things we need to have to be able to function.
Now, the question is, can white people allow for that in this country?
Well,
Will white people overcome their racism and allow for that to happen in this country?
I mean, I was reading Mr. Bernard Shaw 2 days ago, and I came across a very important quote, which I think is most apropos. He says, all criticism is autobiography. Dig yourself.
dig yourself.
Okay.
We've been floating this country on credit for centuries, yo. And we're done watching and waiting while the invention called whiteness uses and abuses us.
Burying black people out of sight and out of mind while extracting our culture, our dollars, our entertainment like oil.
Black gold.
Ghettoizing and demeaning our creations and then stealing them.
Gentrifying our genius and then trying us on like costumes before discarding our bodies like strange fruit. The thing is, just because we're magic, and we are, it doesn't mean we're not real.
The time is now to counteract the poison that has inflicted ignorance and hatred in America's social and political body.
It will not be tomorrow that it is uprooted.
We have to begin.
And we are beginning late, I must say. But a late beginning is better than none.
But I don't think we should pretend that it's going to be easy.
We are rising out of the darkness and into the light of freedom.
Because the only thing we have left now that's going to save this whole country and eventually the world is us. Our roots are here.
Our blood, sweat, and tears are here.
We have helped to build America with our labor, strengthened it with our faith, and enriched it with our song. We have given you Paul Laurence Dunbar and Booker T. Washington,
Marian Anderson and George Washington Carver,
Venus and Serena,
Houston Baker and Angela Davis,
Mary McLeod Bethune and Jesse Williams,
Keasia Brooks and Stokely Carmichael,
London Breed and Malcolm X,
Lorraine Hansberry and Jamil Hill,
Tamika Mallory and Dick Gregory,
Khalid Abdul Muhammad and Marley Kay,
Amber Ruffin and James Baldwin.
We have given you Robert P. Moses and Ta-Nehisi Coates,
Fannie Lou Hamer and Barack Obama,
Jason Vesey,
Clarissa Vickery,
Daryl Gene Daughtry Jr.,
Crystal Dickinson,
and me.
and me.
and me.
and me.
We're gonna stay here.
We gotta try.
Deep within, there's a poisoning in our spirit, in our country, in our neighbors. When they see us, are we here? Do we matter? All the blood over centuries in the name of freedom, God and country are protectors. When they see us, are we here? Do we matter? I ask this on the daily. I ask this for my baby, still out there in the maybe. We wanna breathe again. I ask this to our families, our mothers and our daddies, still out behaving badly. We wanna breathe again. To our friends, shook and shattered, scared to speak.